So let's talk about the top 20 reasons why people either don't start budgeting or start and for some reason stop. I've pulled together what I believe are the top 20 myths or reasons that I hear as to why people can't or won't budget, and we'll talk through each of them. Let's start with number one. So the first reason that people don't budget is it's time consuming. And I think in a lot of cases, when you're setting something up or you're trying something new, it does take some time to pull together. Once you've got it up and going though, and you've got your categories and you've got your allocations, it's something that ticks along and there should be really very little time required. Most of the time it might be annually or quarterly, just reviewing your budget, making sure that nothing has changed or meaningfully changed. And you don't need to make any changes to your allocations. Otherwise, there should be minimal changes or time, effort required in budgeting. This leads us into number two, and that is around effort. And it's very similar to time required. I think time and effort, for the most part, will go together in most different things that you talk about or look at. And here, again, once it's set up, there isn't too much that you need to do. There is ongoing maintenance that, yes, you need to look at it and how much income have I got coming in and how much expenses I've got going out. What do those categories look like? But once it's established, there is very little effort required in budgeting. Creating a budget is difficult. It is. And especially when you haven't started yet, it can be overwhelming. And there's a lot of tools and things that are available to support, and a lot of free tools as well. And in fact, I might look to pull together a template that people can use over the next couple of episodes to really support with this. But there is some work in pulling all of your spending habits together and understanding your different categories and what you've got allocated. So there is some work that goes in here, but it shouldn't be something that's stressful or overwhelming. It's starting at a level that you're comfortable with and that's appropriate for your stage of life and what you need to get out of the process, and get started. And something small or something little, every little improvement that you make to your budget is only going to flow through downstream and improve the end outcomes. You have to be good at maths to budget. This is one that comes up a lot, and it's factually incorrect. What's important and what you need to be able to know to be able to budget is be able to tell the difference between two numbers and what number's higher. And what I mean by that is how much money have you got coming in? What's your income? How much money have you got going out? And which one's higher? As long as your income is higher than your expenses, you're in a good spot. And if your expenses is higher than your income, well, we need to make some changes and look at what we can do to make those changes. So for me, when it comes to maths, that's almost as complex as it needs to get. Yes, you'll have categories. Yes, you'll have groupings and allocations, but the maths side of it is making sure that you understand and you have the ability to look at your income, look at your expenses, and ensure that your expenses remain below your income. I don't know where to start. Again, I mentioned I might pull together a sheet to help with this, but what I'd recommend if you're looking for a way to get started is go and get your last 1, maybe 2 months of bank statements and start looking at where you're spending money. Create some categories. Create a category for eating out. Create a category for utilities such as gas or electricity or water. Create a category for your sports habits or whatever it might be, but pull those, your petrol, your gas, your insurances, pull those categories together and have a look at where your money has been allocated for the last couple of months. Look at the next couple of months coming, and does that look the same? And then do the same with your income. How much money has been coming in, and are you expecting that to be the same over the next couple of months? And have a look to see is your expenses sitting below your income, or is your income is your expenses below or above your income? And then from there, you can start making decisions. Are there some changes I need to make? But I think that's a great place to start, just pulling the last couple of months of statements, your bank statements, and starting to get some categories as to where you're spending. Budget blowouts mean it doesn't work. We all have budget blowouts. Things happen, things come up. It doesn't mean it doesn't work. What it means is, one, what do you learn from that, and how do you tweak your budget or tighten it for next time round, so that you've got a pool of funds sitting there for when budgets do blow out. They're going to happen. Something might come up that all of a sudden you need some funds. Doesn't mean the budget didn't work. It just meant the inputs into it weren't quite right, or we need to tweak it further. So certainly not a reason to give up. It's a reason to go back, review, refine, and improve for going forward. It's not fun. Well, unfortunately, like brushing your teeth, I don't think anyone thinks brushing teeth is fun. And is it boring? Look, maybe, but it's a necessary evil. It's something that helps us get to an end outcome. And budgeting is much the same. It's not meant to be fun. It's not meant to be exciting. Maybe for some people it is, but for most people, it's there to help make sure that we're on the right track and we're protecting our future selves. There's lots and lots of material that supports the benefit of writing things down over just trying to retain information in your head. But something key here is it's not just about how much did I spend last month or how much can I spend on eating out next month. It's about understanding, cost of living is a hot topic at the moment. So when we look forward and we sort of forecast out, well, how much has electricity cost me over the last 12 months? If we're hearing it's going to increase by 10 or 20% or whatever that number might be, looking at our budget for the next 12 months and increasing that now to make sure that we're starting to factor that into our future budgeting. So retaining it in your head isn't going to be enough, whether you write it down pen and paper or whether you put it in Excel, whatever it is, but getting it down on paper so you can see it, so you can adjust it, is a critical process as part of the overall budgeting process. I save money every pay, so don't need to budget. If you're saving money every pay, good on you, well done, keep going. But I think what's important here is that even a broken clock is right twice a day. Making sure that your income, you might have a really high, healthy income and be controlling your expenses really well. A budget's really important to make sure that continues to in the future, so that if your expenses do go up or your income comes down, you're really clear on where those funds are going. Even if you are saving though, where is that savings going? What is it allocated to? Is it to shares? Is it for a future property? Is it for a business? Is it to your children's education? Whatever that might be, making sure you're clear where it's going and that you know how much is going into those same accounts next fortnight, next month, next quarter, over the next year. I track my spending, so don't need to budget. If you're tracking your spending, you're really halfway there. Budgeting is also the process of, one, yes, tracking your spending, but two, looking at what's coming down the pipe, what's happening in the future, what do I need to be allocating for the future. So if you're already tracking the spending, I would say you're well on your way to having your budget. And if you're someone that's looking at that going, no, but I do the future piece, I look at my income for the future and my expense in the future, well, guess what? You're budgeting. Number 11, budgets restrict my lifestyle and it stops me having fun. I think a lot of people think about budgets as something that where you're losing. I think it's really important that we shift that mindset on budgets here, and it's not about restricting lifestyles. It's really important in your budget to have things and allocations for things that are important to you, whether that is eating out, whether it's going and playing basketball on a Wednesday night, whether it's going out with friends, whatever it might be, going and doing art, whatever it might be for you, having that allocated into your budget is really important. A budget isn't about cutting back expenses and cutting everything out. A budget is about understanding how much money is coming in and how much expenses are going out and where are those allocations for expenses. So it's understanding the categories and how much is going into the categories over stripping things out of your life. It's not a good time for me to start. Like a lot of things, sometimes it never is. So maybe the best time is right now. In a lot of cases, it is right now. And that might not be literally right this second, but is it tomorrow? Is it next week? It's certainly not in 6 months' time. It needs to be something where you allocate the time, you allocate the effort. As we said, get those bank statements out, start going through them with a highlighter or a pen, and starting to allocate to understand what your spending habits are. I don't have enough money to budget. Great thing about budgets is you don't need to have money to do it. All you need is a pen and paper or an Excel spreadsheet. And if you don't have enough money and you've got more money going out than coming in, this is a critical process for what you're doing. It's understanding where it's going, what is coming in, where it is going, and what can you change? How can you influence that? So the amount of money you have certainly doesn't influence whether budgeting is important for you. I make enough money so I don't need to budget. This is a common misconception. It's something that even if you are saving and you've got enough money coming in, making sure that you're clear on where that money is going. If you've got a lot coming in, what are you doing with it? Where is it being allocated? How is it being funneled into different income generating strategies, whatever that might be, but understanding where it's going. Otherwise, spending habits will creep in, money will go to waste, it'll sit there, it won't be getting the outcomes that you need. So regardless of how much money you're making, it is important to have that budget sitting there so you're managing your cash flow. Budgets have too much detail. I think this is where budgets do become a really personal thing. For some people, detail is really important. For other people, it's strip it right back and you might only have 3, 4, 5 categories in your budget. You don't need to have specific detail for every single line item of what you spend. For some people, you might want that, but for others, that's too much. So it needs to be appropriate for you, but you do need to have a couple of key categories so that you can understand what expense categories things are going into rather than one category that is all of your expenses. I don't have any debt. That's great. If you don't have any debt, that's a fantastic place to be. But it's also, in the same way that we spoke about earlier, if you're saving $1,000 a month, $1,000 a week, $1,000 a year, where is that going and how is it being allocated? And if your expenses start to go up and the price of food starts to go up, well, how is that $1,000 influenced? Does $1,000 now become $900? Is it $800? What does that look like? Because if you hold it at $1,000, your income doesn't go up, but your grocery bill goes up, then you're going to have a problem with your budget and your cash flow really quickly. There are so many unexpected expenses, so it doesn't work. Unexpected expenses is always going to be something that comes up. So how do you manage that? Do you put a buffer on all of your spending categories so that when you're allocating money for food or you're allocating it for your utilities or for your health insurance, whatever that might be, do you add a certain percent more over and above? Do you have an account that you put $100 a fortnight, a month into for unexpected expenses? So when they do come up and the heater stops working and you need to go and replace it, or you touch wood but you have a car accident and you need the premium for your insurance, whatever that might be, you've got a pool of funds there. Different things for different people, but having that built into your philosophy is really important so that when unexpected things do come up, it doesn't break everything for you. It's impossible to stick to a budget. There is an element of discipline required here, but there is also an element of truth going into the budget when you're setting it up. If you're someone that eats out every single night or once a week, whatever that might be, and you spend $100 a week on eating out, if you're putting $10 a week into the budget and you don't have the discipline to stick to that, you're going to have a problem from the start. So the budget needs to be realistic for your lifestyle, supporting the lifestyle that you need, but also something that you can stick to and manage ongoing. Budget is about restricting spending. The thing about this is when you're paid and money comes in, the money you're spending is the money you're spending. All the budget's doing is how that is actually allocated. So whether you're spending it by putting it into a savings account, putting it aside for your kids' future education, putting it into food, putting it into your investment property, your first property, your rent, whatever that might be, it's being spent one way or another. The budget process is just understanding the allocation of the spending both now and into the future. I only need a budget when I'm saving for something. This is something that absolutely isn't the case. If you're not saving for something, as we've said already, what are you doing with that money? And you might not have an answer for that. So it's going off into a savings account. I'm putting $700 into savings that's going to sit there until I know what I want to do with it, whether I want to go and buy a boat, whether I want to go on a holiday, whether I want to buy a house, or it's just a security blanket for me. No problem. But it's about understanding what is that allocation that's going in there and how are other expenses going to influence the amount that I can or that I can't put into that account. So look, I hope that was helpful. That's 20 myths that we have Debunked here. I'd love to hear any comments of any other myths that you've heard, or any thoughts, or anything that you want to challenge, or a different view on any of these myths. I'd love to hear about it. Please like and subscribe to this channel also, and I look forward to chatting with you in the next video.